anybody's in the witness protection program.
Say again.
If anybody's in the witness protection
Oh
program,
yeah, that as well. Yeah, they all are. Nearly all of them, to be honest, I think.
all of them. All
Have you
right,
have you have you not seen them yet?
we're in good company then.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think we've got nearly everybody's UK based, but I do happen to know there's somebody in Malta as well. Am I right? Give us a wave if you're in Malta. There he is. So, shall we kick off then? It's 5 past just gone, so welcome guys, and so what we do is I think I gave you the brief anyway, and so I don't know which one of you wants to start, but if you give us 10 minutes on how you got to where
Hooter.
you ended up flying or whatever you want to talk about on your career would be great, and any background you want. So whoever is going to talk first is over to you.
Pilot first. Go ahead, Hooter.
All right, I'll go. Thanks. Well, I started by watching the astronauts back in the early '60s, watching that stuff go down, and that was interesting to me. I didn't really do anything about it until I got to college, though. I decided I want to go fly, and I want to try to be an astronaut. So I started walking into the recruiting offices. It didn't look very likely that I would fly, but the Navy gave me the best shot at it, and they took me out in a T-34 and out of Davis-Monthan. I was at the University of Arizona at the time. They went out and did what's called a squirrel cage, which is a loop, a half Cubanate, an Immelman, and a split S. And I was like, let me try that. So he let me fly it, and we did a bunch of other things, did a couple of spins, and I just loved it. And so I applied, and I got picked up out of college, and went through Pensacola for AOCS, Aviation Officer Candidate School. Went to Corpus Christi after I got commissioned through T-28s, which was a lot of fun. And then went up to Beeville for T2s and A4s, and out to Miramar for to VF-121 to fly Phantoms. I had no idea what I was walking into 121. I mean, that place is loaded with the ghosts of really cool dudes, and I had no clue. I just thought I was the coolest dude. And then I did Phantoms. I was sent to be a flight instructor in TA4s. Had a good time there. Got out of that, came back to Miramar, flew F-14s, and then went to Naval Postgraduate School so I could get a job after Navy. And that's kind of it.
Wow, that was fast. I think there's quite a few things what happened in between times, but yeah.
Well, so Hooter decided he did not want to be an airline pilot when he got out of the Navy.
Right. I did not want to do that.
So what did you do?
I still want to do some space stuff. My last set of orders was out of Korea. I was on a combined staff in Korea, and I wanted to get back into airplanes. And I was talking to Commander Brown at I forget what squadron was up at Fallon at the time, and he said, "Yeah, I can bring you in here. I can grab you and pull you in. You'll be flying." I think he said A4s and F5s, and you might get rolled into the F-16 later on. I was like, throw me into that briar patch. And I was all ready to do that. And then the peace dividend hit. And it was, sorry, Hooter, you weren't haze gray and underway while they were shooting. You were land-based in Korea, so you're going to go do something else in Virginia. So I went to Navy Space Command and retired out of there.
Oh, sorry.
Hot mic.
It's okay. We'll.
And when I retired out of there, I just went into industry and became a member of the military industrial complex at the Computer Sciences Corporation, then Lockheed Martin, and then I opened my own small business. And I went back to Computer Sciences Corporation. in Colorado Springs, then opened my own business and did some work. And now I was retired for a while, and now I'm working for Booz Allen Hamilton, supporting Space Force and buying GPS satellites and Milsatcom satellites.
Wow. Well, I think, for me, I've already got questions, and so I'd like a bit more, but I don't know if we want to hand over at the moment to Bio, and then we can do Bio. You don't
Well,
have to be as short, or you can be as short if you like, or as long as you like, more or less.
well, you have to understand that if I go long, that's all you'll get.
Well, we'd love to know some more about the military jets you flew, but I think maybe we can come to that if that's okay. Maybe it's
Yeah.
appropriate for Bio to do his
You know,
start.
any Navy pilot or NFO can fill 2 hours talking about themselves.
That's only because they have to go to a bathroom after that.
Um, okay, so Hooter talked about being interested in space, and I was interested in space when I was a kid, and I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. So a couple of times I watched launches because it was about 3 hours from the Cape, and then but I never wanted to be an astronaut. But I can say that around the time I was 10 or 11 years old, something just hit me and I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I don't know what it was. My parents used to take us to air shows. My dad liked airplanes, but he didn't have anything to do with the with airplanes or with the military after brief service as a youngster. But once I thought of that, I did whatever I needed to do to be a fighter pilot. And basically that was go to college at that point. So I went to ROTC at Georgia Tech, and when I got there, my eyesight went bad. So, this was in 1975. There was no LASIK, none of that. So there was no way I could be a pilot at all. So I was really distressed for a little while, but then I was looking at my F-14 pictures, and I noticed that a lot of the backseaters were wearing glasses, and the F-14 was brand new at this time. So I changed my goal to being a Rio, and so that was what I pursued. And I got to tell you, I mean, Rio training is not pilot training, but it's still competitive. I mean, you don't just declare you're going to be a Rio. It's something you have to compete for, qualify for, and all that. So, I did terrible in college, but I passed. So, Hooter, remember the AQT FAR test, the qualification?
Yep.
Okay. Do you remember what you got?
I do exactly remember, and that's a
What'd
story.
you get? Well, I mean, you can tell us that if you want, or
Or want to tell it now?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I walked into that test somewhere in Tucson. There was about 40 or 50 people in there, and standard, I apparently didn't listen to all the instructions. So I was answering the 100-question test as well as I could, because I thought they were just going to grade the ones that you did, not all of them. So I got 65 out of 65 right, but I didn't get the last 25 or 35. I guess I wasn't good at math. It might have been a little bit more, but it was around 65 or 70. And I got a call back from the Navy after my test went in. They said, you didn't answer all the questions, so we're not sure how that would have gone, but you're the only person who's partially answered the questions and got them all right. So where do you want to go? I'm like,
Good.
cool.
See, when I took it at Georgia Tech, my senior year or junior year, and a Navy lieutenant came over and he administered the test to everybody on campus that wanted to take it. So, a dozen guys from ROTC, a few other walk-ins and stuff. And then he graded the test right there. I mean, and he graded mine. He goes, you got a 9 and a 9. So they didn't tell me how many. I mean, I don't remember, but he goes, that was the highest grade. I mean, when they told us, it was 9 and 9. So maybe they graded, if you get 90 out of 100, you get 9. Anyway, he goes, "You're the only, I've been doing this for a couple of years, and you're the only person I've ever seen to get 2 9s." I go, "All right, good, you know." So
Yeah.
anyway, I went to you know, I had an aptitude, but that was from passion. I just loved aviation. So I went to Pensacola. I
Sorry,
did,
before we move on, because I
yeah.
don't even know what it is. So I know it's
Oh,
obviously a test to get into the Navy of some
I
sort,
think
but
it stands for Aviation Qualifying Test and Flight Aptitude Record, AQTFAR. And
and
I
it was
think
based on aviation then, obviously, from the sounds
well,
of it.
there's all kinds of aviation. It's spatial orientation, a few technical aviation questions, but a lot of, you know, common sense. Like
Yeah.
they'd show, you know, a three-dimensional drawing, and they would say which one of these represents the same object or something. They would have some little difference or something like that. So anyway, so
Okay,
it
thanks.
wasn't just hardcore aviation. It was a lot more than that. All right. So that, I mean, I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but went to Pensacola, did better than I did in college, got selected to go F-14s, went to Miramar, and went to the RAG. And like Hooter said, you get to the RAG, and there's all these people who have, you know, been around the world, done all this great flying and stuff like that. And then I went to my first squadron in 1981. Did pretty well there. Um, I ejected with the CO 6 months after I got there, so that was good. You know, everything went well and stuff. But that you know, kind of spotlighted me, which was good. You know, and then went through Top Gun as a student, went back to Top Gun as an instructor. Then I went to VF2 and F-14 squadron. That's where I met Hooter, and then I did 6 years of staff work. The Joint Chiefs of Staff in the Pentagon, and then Hooter was in Korea. I was in Japan, and then I went back to an F-14 tour, and then I got out of the Navy and that last tour I commanded VF-211, and then I got out of the Navy at 20 years. And some Rios, when they got out, they got their pilot license. Probably a few guys became airline pilots, but I know a few have become test pilots for various manufacturers. But I just wasn't interested in that. So I looked for all kinds of jobs, and I ended up getting going in IT program management. And Hooter said he got his degree at the Naval Postgraduate School so he could get a job. And to this day, I wish that my last tour after I left VF-211, I wish I had thought for, you know, 30 seconds and asked for my final tour to be in the Pentagon, because I would have set myself up for life. But I didn't. So
Yeah.
So you've just retired, both of you, basically. That was quick. We're
I
it's
re-
only what time is it? It's 18 minutes past 8, and you've both retired. But I think there's quite a lot of stories in the middle there somewhere.
well, I retired in 1999, and then, you know, I worked. I live in Florida. You know, I thought I retired when I moved down here back in 8 years ago. But last year I was sitting there thinking, Hooter, I don't know if you knew, if I told you this, but last year I was sitting here thinking that I was wasting a lot of time. And so I tried to get, well, I did talk to you about getting jobs and stuff. I could not get a job in the government, military aviation sector. So I'm getting my real estate license.
Perfect.
So I mean, I know some of the stories that
Let's
you
talk
have.
about airplanes.
You've Bio, the ejection story is quite. I mean, I heard it in your book, so I know it, but I think unless anybody else has read the book, they don't know it.
But
So,
I'll tell you the short. I'll tell you the short version. We came in. I mean, I'll add a couple of details. One, the skipper was not scheduled to fly on that flight. But who do you remember? Well, you remember spares. The pilot who was supposed to lead the flight launched as a spare. So the duty officer said, "Oh, I need a pilot." So he called the skipper. Skipper goes, "I'll take it." So he came in and he goes, "Well, who's my Rio?" And they told him this other guy, and he goes, "No." He goes, "Bio, you're my regular Rio, so you're going flying." So, all right, good. So we were not scheduled to fly on this flight. We go out for a very nice afternoon flight in the Indian Ocean, come back to land, and as we come into land, our hook skipped the 3-wire and caught the 4, and the 4-wire wasn't set for the weight of the aircraft. So it slowed us down, and then all the machinery broke, and then the airplane went off the angle. And as we're going down the angle, I'm sitting there just thinking. So one, the good thing was my hands were reflexively on the lower ejection handle. I didn't, by the time I thought about that, which, was like a tenth of a second, by the time I thought about it, my hands were already there. But holding it and pulling it are two different things. So I'm going down the flight deck going, oh man, if I pull this thing, there's no going back. So we get to the end of the angle and the skipper goes, eject, eject. So I pulled as soon as he said the first E, and I went out of the plane just as the plane was leaving the angle, starting to fall down. So the Rio comes out first, then the pilot came out second. So the skipper came out just before the plane hit the water. And so my seat went up. It was a Martin Baker GRU-7. It had a low altitude mode. It went up. I got seat man separation, and then the parachute was blown open as I was falling, and then I splashed into the water right next to the carrier. And so I got like one swing in the parachute. Just it blew open just before I hit the water. So the one thing that really helped me was we had automatic life preservers that inflated. I popped up to the water. I undid myself from my parachute. By this time, the helicopter was coming over me, which was a good thing, as it turned out. So I gave him a thumbs up, and I started to, and he flew away. Kind of like, okay, which I didn't know what he was doing, but they were going to check on the skipper because I gave him a thumbs up. So they go, okay, that guy's okay. So they were going to check on the skipper, and the skipper was behind me, and he could see that I was still dealing with my parachute and stuff. So he emphatically waved them back over to me. So by this time, I was getting tangled up in my parachute. And they had taught us in Pensacola, water survival, get away from that parachute because it will sink and it will pull you under. So I got out my shroud line cutter. I cut some of the shroud lines. The helicopter got close and lowered the cable with a harness on it. They did not put a swimmer in the water. They dragged the harness over to me. I wrapped it around me, and they pulled me up. And so as they pulled me up, I still had too many lines on me, so they lowered me back in the water. I cut some more lines, then they pulled me up to the helicopter. So then I get in, and the first thing I hear is them talking to each other, and they go, "We lost the skipper." And so for like a flash, I'm going like, oh, I waited too long, and I killed the squadron CO. But then somebody goes, "Oh, there he is." So what they meant was we lost sight of the skipper. They didn't mean that he's gone, So then we flew over, picked him up. They put a swimmer in the water. And when they pulled him in the helicopter, the first thing I said was, "Skipper, we didn't do anything wrong, right? We had to eject." And he goes, "Yes, Bio, we had to eject." So I felt relief at that. So the next day we talked to the helicopter guys, and they said, "Bio, are you wondering why we didn't put a swimmer in?" And I said, "Yeah." And they go, "It's because we could see your parachute was starting to get pulled under by the wake of the ship, and that you were still, involved with it. And so the fastest thing was to just put the cable in and let you hook up to the cable." So that was good. And I was glad I didn't know that when I was in the water. I mean, there's a lot more thoughts and stuff like that. But anyway, the good things were it was daytime. The water temperature was 85 degrees. and I was in the water about 3 minutes. The bad thing was we lost an F-14, and it was caused by an untrained guy who was supposed to set the arresting gear. He was not trained, and his supervisor wasn't supervising him. But everybody survived. Nobody was seriously injured. And that's it. Thanks for asking. I mean, I'd be happy to answer questions about it, but that's the outline of the story. It was a great experience.
I mean, I've got a bit of insight. Sorry, somebody got a question. Tony, did you want to ask?
You must be psychic, yes. Which carrier was it?
It was USS Constellation.
Okay.
This was in December 1981, and it was about 120 miles east of Diego Garcia.
All right.
Yeah, and the
So
water's
not the exact middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But much in the news over the ownership of the Chagos Islands, of course.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of knew because I've read a lot about U.S. Navy aviation over the years. Not so much lately, but you've always got a helicopter in the air while you're on any flying activity near the carrier, I suppose. Is that?
Yep.
Yeah.
And those guys are going to be pretty quickly there. Then that's
Yep.
Well,
one of the main
the thing that
things.
really helped us was the helicopter pilot, Lieutenant Commander Sam Taylor. I vowed to remember his name. They orbited around the right side of the ship, and so they did a racetrack pattern fore and aft, and it just as he was coming around the aft part was when we landed and went over the side. So he was in the perfect position to see us go over. I mean, so that, that allowed him to respond immediately. And he did.
Yeah.
So we were very fortunate the way things worked out.
Yeah, and how did you get out of the parachute lines? I mean, they were still tangled when you were coming out of the water by the sounds of it.
Well, in the reason I got tangled was because there was no drift. So in many cases, your parachute will open up at some altitude and you'll come down with at least some drift and you'll hit the water. Then the parachute will blow away from you and then you unhook yourself and it's all over there. But in my case, it opened just before I hit the water. So I came down and it was all around me. I mean, luckily it was not over my head, but it was just in the water laying around me. So in Pensacola, they had taught us, if you're tangled in your parachute lines, calmly back away. Hooter, remember? Yeah, exactly. So the water was warm. I grew up swimming. I mean, I was a swimming kid. That's what I did. And that life preserver inflated and really kept me afloat. So I was very comfortable. But the more I was trying to calmly back paddle away from the parachute, the more tangled up I got. So I just reached for my switchblade, which was up here, top right, in my survival vest. And I first tried to use the little curved blade. Oh, wait a minute, I have the knife right back there, the actual knife. I first tried to use a little curved blade, but it didn't cut anything. So then I wanted to use the switchblade, but it was duct tape closed because the parachute riggers and their survival equipment guys, they'd had problems with the blades popping open when they were inspecting them, so they duct taped them closed. So I'm sitting there in the water with my thumbnail trying to find the duct tape end. And, and I thought, one day this will be funny, but right now it's not very funny.
It's not funny.
So the good thing was, I popped the switchblade, I grabbed as many of the lines as I could, and I cut. And, I mean, this was funny. That was the world's sharpest knife blade. I was shocked because I took one swipe and the lines just fell apart. Now, in Pensacola, they tell you, don't cut the lines except as a last resort. I was in a last resort situation, so I cut the lines.
Yeah. I was going to add that. 'Cause I do
So
remember that.
we've got to ask you, Hooter, did you ever eject?
No,
I think
I
that's the
did
right
not.
answer as far as I know, by the
Yeah.
way.
Did you have any near ejections
Um,
or consider it?
the engine failure, yes, that was a consideration. Although the airplane was flying nicely, so I didn't. But yeah, that was probably the closest when I considered it. I mean, it was pre-briefed going on to the catapult with Taz in the back seat. My backseater was call sign was Taz, and I said, Taz, I don't know what's going to happen when we take off. Stand by to get out of this thing. I said, but don't do anything until I tell you to. And then there's a story after that. I don't want to interrupt your story though, Dave.
Oh,
So
I'm
yeah,
done.
I only one time I really think I should have. And there was a time before I had started flying jets, I was flying in the back seat with a Marine captain, Captain Roach. Um, really good guy. He let me go along on a gun hop in the T2, and we were towing the banner, or we were escorting the banner. I'm sorry. So as we're coming back for landing at Beeville, we get in really bad weather, and I just remember seeing banner, and I said, "There's the banner," and we went into the banner, and we got wrapped up in the cable. It wrapped around the tip tank, and he looked outside, came off instrument, looked outside, and goes, "Holy shit!" And he went full forward, full right stick, and we popped out of the bottom of clouds. As we're going down, the cable came off, and I just said, "Cable's off the tip tank," and he bottoms out at about 300 feet, and we go and land VFR ish. You know, we're just below the clouds, and he doesn't go buck up. And as we taxi in, he grabs, we taxi in, get out of the airplane. I don't hear a thing from him. I'm climbing out, and he pulls me off the side of the airplane and slams me back into it and says, "Why the hell were we still in that airplane? Why didn't you eject us?" I did not know what was happening. I was like, "I don't know anything." So,
But so Matthew's got a question. He's got his hand up, and I don't know if it's relevant to this specific one or if it was from before. So sorry, guys. We normally have asked people to put their hands up if they have a question. And yeah, Matthew, go ahead. You're on mute at the minute.
Hey, so quick question. If you were to like be able to restart your career from the beginning anytime, knowing what you know now, would you go down like again, fly the Tomcat, or would you choose any other plane, any from any country, like to restart the career?
is that for Hooter or Bio or both?
I think it's
No, both,
both.
both. Yeah,
But
Uh,
first,
from, from my perspective, yeah, I went in thinking whatever I get's going to be fun. I was primarily, believe it or not, I was like, God, helos would be really cool. And then they forced me to fly jets. And then when I was flying jets, I was thinking A6s would be really cool because I saw a marketing film. And then they put me in fighters. It just kind of worked out for me. Anything would have been good. That was my attitude the whole time.
so we haven't got any more hands at the minute. So if I, I'm not even
How
sure
about Bio?
we've not finished that. We've not
I
really
wouldn't
finished
change anything.
the story. Yeah, that was the yeah. You wouldn't change anything.
Hooter can tell us his single engine cat shot story.
Well, I got a question about what he said to you said that before you took off, Hooter, you said I don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen. Did you always say that, or
No,
I was going to?
no.
Was there a reason why? I was thinking, oh, you must have been great fun if you were a backseater. I don't know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah. Well, you remember in Dave's story, he was talking about the spare. Well, that's what I was doing. I got into the
Spare
spare, and
aircraft.
it was a
Yeah.
maintenance turn as much as a spare. And the skipper was next to me, and the opso was flying. The skipper was in the back seat. Um, and their plane went down. So I don't have radios on. Next thing I know, um, well, let me tell a little bit more about what's going on while I'm sitting there. While I'm sitting there, they're testing these things called the ramps in the F-14. It constrains the airflow when you become supersonic so that you don't get shock waves down the engine. And the ramps are going up and down and up and down and this and that, and lights are flashing and coming on. I'm like, Jesus, I hope this doesn't happen if I have to take off. Probably shouldn't have thought that. And I had been moving switches back and forth, what they had told me to do when they gave me certain signals. So I was doing that. And next thing I know, the plane captain's banging on the other side of the airplane. He goes, "You're at launch." I'm like, okay. I look at the skipper and he goes, "Get going, get out of here." Okay, pull chocks. They pulled chocks.
And that skipper was very concerned about like a sortie race or sortie count, completion rate. So
Yes. And I will say most skippers are, because that's how they were measured against each other. So I taxi out, and we hadn't really done a full pre-launch checklist yet. We were pretty much through it by the time we got behind the JBD, and that's when I said, Taz, I'm not really sure what's going to happen here. I've had a couple lights come back on. I've moved the switches back and forth. I think I have it set right. And I went through a little bit of that with him. And I like, master caution's out. All the lights are out as far as I can tell. And this is while we're taxiing into position. Going into tension, I was just said, I'm just going to take off straight ahead. There's not going to be any Yahoo turn off the end. It's just going to be a gentle takeoff. I'll set an attitude, see what happens. So they launch the airplane, looking good. Get to the end of the cat stroke, and as soon as I get airborne, weight off wheels, the right ramp goes full closed. So what that does is it chokes the engine. Gigantic fireball comes out of the back, or so I'm told. I hear a big bang and a thump, and then the airplane, watch this, does this. I'm like, oh, look, I can see through the boat, because we had settled down to where I could look through the starboard sponson, and I could see all the way through to the port sponson. I look through the port sponson, look through to the starboard sponson. So I'm about, I don't
looking
know,
through the hangar bay.
looking through the hangar bay. I'm about 40 feet off the deck, and I guess I had actually studied the NATOF, because I didn't do any of the stupid things you should have done reflexively, having flown other airplanes. I just kept the attitude where it was and slowly started feeding in rudder to get it to miss the boat. I was kind of afraid of hitting the front of the boat. So I put in a little bit of left rudder and just tried not to roll the airplane. I just wanted to keep it as level as I could. And we flew off and got airborne. At one point, Taz said, "Are we okay?" And I said, I'm pretty sure I said yes, but I probably said, "I think so." So he didn't pull the handle, and we got away from the boat, and we started flying again. Um, Figured out kind of what went on, tried to restart the engine. Everything looked good, and I was going to go on my mission. Mind you, I'm in a TARPS airplane with a TARPS pod on it, fully loaded. So that's maximum weight takeoff. And you can't get rid of that 2,000-pound pod. Even if I had pushed the button that says, eject externals, I guess maybe rails might have come off, but not too much more. I don't think I had missiles on. I might have had one Sparrow and two Winders or something, but I didn't do that. I was busy just trying to miss the boat. And They said, no, don't go do that. This was the day we did we were doing Ernest Wills or something like that. And there was a oil
Oh,
platform being shot up.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That was it wasn't praying mantis. It was nimble archer maybe.
Yep. Hang on.
Yeah,
I've got it. I've got it
the
here. I've got it here. Engine failure. Yep. Nimble Archer launch. October 19th. The Taz off the Ranger. And airplane felt good, but they made me do a precautionary single engine approach, and I got okay, no comment on it.
So the engine didn't start again, or you shut it
Yeah,
down?
it did start, but they didn't want me to rely on it. They wanted me to
Yeah,
just fly a
right.
single engine approach. I had it pulled back, not all the way to idle, but just somewhere that if I really needed it, it wouldn't take forever to spin up. So I was probably back at, I don't know, 70% or something like that. And just let it drive in and tried to be as perfect as I could be on that particular moment. So we
I mean,
landed, and
I've got to ask you. I'm sorry, Clive's got his hand up. I see. If I can just ask this because you know, I've read quite a lot about aviation and particularly military. What they say, and I haven't done it, is that carrier landings are the most difficult thing you can do. It looks difficult to me, um, but I've only seen it on simulators. So I know you're a Navy pilot, so it presumably became bread and butter. But was it always scary, realistically, or did it get to the point where it was routine?
you could get complacent. And Bio has a story about that. Yeah, you better be aware of what's going on. If you're not, it's not going to end well.
It's going to bite you,
If
yeah,
you think you're better than the back end of the
yeah,
boat has a vote.
yeah. So, and what about night landings? I mean, in bad weather, because that sounds pretty bad to
Well,
me.
yeah, you're talking 160 to 200 beats per minute. Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
night landings in bad weather, single engine, on fire, and low fuel? Okay, go.
Well, you'll have to talk to Pager about that.
Good point. Good point. Clive has
Although
a
there
Sorry,
question.
wasn't a fire involved.
Clive's got his hand up patiently. Clive, over to you.
I've just got a couple of questions that kind of follow on from that. What was I going to say? Sorry, who's it to you? The first one. You said you did a single engine landing. The F-14A was quite notorious for being quite asymmetric in its power settings because the engines are quite wide apart. Did it handle well single engine, or was that a real
No,
test?
it is. It is further apart than you would think. I mean, you can feel it. You know that you're flying kind of sideways because you feel the torque, um, and every engine change does more exotic things to whatever flying position you were in when you added some motor. So I was trying to make tiny little engine changes, trying not to uh, be off lineup at all. But the boat's moving, that makes you have to work to go to the right. You're not supposed to turn into the dead engine. That's what I was doing the whole time, turning into the dead engine. I mean, the cards were stacked up to make it an ugly day, but it worked out.
And just a quick question to both of you, following on from that. What was to both of you? What was your first cat shot and your first your both first carrier landing like? So
You want to
Hooter,
go,
you went.
Bio?
No, go ahead. Well, I'll just tell you mine. My first cat shot was near the end of my time in the F-14 training squadron called the RAG, and I was flying with a an experienced pilot, Dave Barnyard, who Hooter knows. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
And Barnyard was converting from the F4. He had a full tour in Phantoms, and he was converting to Tomcats. So he was an experienced fighter pilot and was just getting his F-14 qual. So he took care of me. I was an ensign. I was a rag student, and I was out of my element. I mean, even though they trained us, we practiced at the field and everything. I can still remember the cat shot and the first arrested landings. I was miles behind the airplane. I mean, I was just overwhelmed. I was able to make my radio calls and signal the guys on the deck and stuff like that, but my brain was catching up. And then one reason that I love talking about this is because when I joined the fleet and we went on workup deployments off the coast of California, and I was starting to do this, you know, every day or twice a day for a couple of weeks, pretty soon I felt pretty comfortable in that environment. And we could talk about complacency later because that's a good story that Hooter and I shared. But I did catch up, and that to me it's similar to ACM and many other things. It was basically disorienting at first, but then keep working on it and you catch up. And if you don't, then you're in the wrong line of business. But Hooter's got, I think you have a better story about certainly the Phantom, right? About, or yeah.
Oh, much before the Phantom. My first cat shot and arrested landing occurred in the T2 on February 28th, 1979, on the Lexington. Let's see, four landings, 2 touch and goes. And I will say that I won my bet against the LSL. So that means I did pretty good. The first arrested landing, you know, you practice this stuff. You go to the field and you do these field carrier landing practice things, and you get used to you get the muscle memory for flying the ball and landing properly and making small changes and getting more and more precise and all that. As I'm coming around the corner, I'm thinking, geez, when I land on this boat, it's going to squish out from underneath me, because the only boat experience I had was like a ski boat when I was a kid, you know, and you jump into a boat and it kind of does this, and I expected it to do that. Well, on the first touch and go, I did what I'm supposed to do, came to full power, set an attitude, and shoo, right off. I go, wow, that's almost like landing on the field. That's no big deal. So I come around the corner again, do another touch and go, come around the corner again, do a landing, roll out. I had forgotten to lock my harness, and I ended up doing this. And I couldn't get out from underneath the glare shield. So I'm sitting at full power, and the captain comes up and says, hey, come, 602 in the wires, come back on the power. It took me a little bit. I got myself unwedged and taxied up and took my first cat shot, 2 minutes later. And it was like the airplane seemed to be flying before it got to the end of the cat shot. It was a pretty gentle experience, and you're along for the ride anyway.
Wow.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
so
Great.
we've got another question. Phil, you're on next. Can you unmute, Phil? You're well done.
I can, yeah,
Yes.
I can. Question for you both. What was it like to air-to-air refuel with the Tomcat? And on the side of that, did you ever hook up to do the buddy refueling with the S3 Viking?
I'll let you go first, Lyle.
Well, when we refueled, when Hooter and I were together in VF2, we refueled from Vikings kind of regularly, and also KA6s, A6Es with buddies stations, and also 135s, KC-130s. Well, in VF2, in that air wing, we didn't have A7s.
Oh, that's right. We didn't have it.
In my earlier air wing, we did use A7s. Also KC-10s. And then in my final squadron tour flying over Iraq, I hit the VC-10 a couple of times.
All right. Okay. And what was it like in terms of lightweight turbulence going up to a small thing as an S3 against the bigger machine that you guys flew?
I'm going to let Hooter talk about it, because this was something that I admitted when I wrote my book, Tomcat Rio, and And when I flew at Hooter, Hooter was an experienced pilot, so he didn't need, a lot of Rio help. But then after him, I flew with a brand new guy. And at that time, I wished I had done a tour as a RAG instructor or something, so I had more Rio instructor techniques. So that's why I'll let Hooter talk about actually flying on the tanker.
All right. I'll take it from there. My first tanker hop was in the Phantom. We did 6 plugs during the day, which were pretty easy, and I'll talk a little bit more about. Then we did 6 plugs at night. And I think one of them was wet, just to get a little gas to show you that, yeah, it does go up when they push the gas into it. Most of them were just plugs. You plug in, push a little bit, stabilize, and then go back out and do it again. The day was not too bad. It wasn't too bad at all. And we happened to be, you guys have heard of Burning Man? That celebration is in the middle of the Nevada desert. That's where we were. We were tanking over where Burning Man is. Black Rock, I think it's called. And I was tanking off an A6E. The first night plug took forever. I almost got to a point where I DQ'd on that, but I finally figured it out and got my
DQ, disqualify.
Yeah, and it was fairly okay. So it wasn't too. Flying there is not. It's just flying formation, and the basket itself and the airplane. You're below the wake turbulence from the airplane. The basket itself is the same on every airplane. I think they're the same diameter. I don't think a bigger airplane has a bigger basket. I think they're all basically the same. And the one thing that is also characteristic, the basket has lights on it. None of them freaking work because they all get beat up by the probe. So at night, you can't see the edge of the basket.
God, I used to see the VC-10s come back in a few times at Bryce and Orton over here in the UK with the basket still out when they'd been out over the North Sea. But yeah, I'll let you carry on there.
Yeah. So, but it's interesting, and every time I did it, I was like, I'm touching another airplane in flight. This is really cool. In the Phantom, as you would get closer to the basket, there wasn't much of a bow wave. So it was, you just drive it straight in. And I got to a point where I could approach the basket with the probe in the side of the airplane. And then when I got set up, I would flip the switch and the probe would come out and go straight into the basket. That was just something I did.
That's salty. That is salty.
Yeah, that is just and that came to me from my backseater who was a F4 Rio in Vietnam, and he said, "Let's try this." And he would pull the circuit breaker out in the back of the Phantom, and I would put the switch in the out position, and then I would fly, and he'd say, "Tell me when you think you're in the right spot." He would kick the circuit breaker in, the probe would come out, and it'd either go in or miss. So
who was that Rio?
What's that?
Who was the Rio?
That was Nichols. Yeah, we called him Indian Head Nichols, not Nick. Yeah, Nick Nichols.
And by doing that, from the way you're speaking, and that just by sheer fluke that happened?
Nope. It was skill, 100%.
That's true.
I don't know.
You cannot rely. You cannot rely on luck in aviation, in anything.
Yeah. No.
But the F-14, I tried to do it in the F-14, but the F-14 probe comes out and goes backwards. So you have to actually add power to get the probe to catch back up to the basket. And if you get too close, it'll hit the side of the basket, in which you don't want to do that. So it's a little bit different, and the F-14 has a bigger bow wave. It actually pushes the basket away about 2 feet or so, so you have to take that into account. It's a little bit harder, takes a little rudder, and I have lazy feet, so it's hard for me.
Well, thank you. I've got a question here from Neil who'd like me to ask. It's one for both of you, really, one after the other, if you would. What's it like living on a carrier? Because I think your tours were quite long sometimes. So it's an interesting thing.
It was
How'd it go?
fun. It was fun for about 2 days. And then, son of a. But we were out there. Actually, one of our deployments, our first deployment together in 1987, was supposed to be 6 months, and they cut it 2 weeks short. Do you remember that, Hooter? We
Yeah.
we came home after 5.5 months, but instead of 6, they cut us 2 weeks short. But it still counted, So we were just lucky. Anyway, so I've got 3 6-month deployments and 2 7.5-month deployments, and I mean, they were just. That was one of the reasons I retired, because I am so damn tired of going out on Navy ships. But I mean, it's kind of fun because back in those days, there was no email. Now they have email. So back there was no satellite telephones, none of that. So you leave the world behind. You go out, you're hanging with your buds, you're flying out in the middle of the ocean where you don't have to worry about shit for air traffic control or coordination or anything. You know, you have they give you food anytime you want. It's not always good food, but it's food. You have a movie in the ready room every night. You get your, I mean, it's great. But 6 months is like, okay. Okay, Hooter, go ahead.
Yeah. I will tell you this: if you can sleep well on a carrier, you can sleep well anywhere. A lot of noise. I every time I get near a diesel carrier, I can smell it. There's a smell of DFM being burned, diesel fuel marine, which is basically diesel fuel for boats, and the smell of bean soup. I swear, you can just smell it in the air when you're behind the ship, and you land. They're like, "Yeah, back aboard the ship. How fun is this?" My first cruise, I had 6 other people in the room with me. Our intel officer had a catapult track greasing Zerk right over his head, so he'd wake up in the morning with grease on his head. And I'd given up some money between the 6 of us. We had given up somewhere close to $1,200 a month in basic allowance for housing that we got because we lived off base, and at that time they took it away from you. So that was a $1,200 a month room with a catapult track in it. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's interesting. It's fun. It's all the things you want it to be and all the things you don't want it to be, literally. And Groundhog Day, if you know what that movie is.
Yeah, we do. I do anyway, yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions actually. One of the things, I don't know if you can talk about it or not, and I think I did say to you, we're aware that there are things that you probably you couldn't say a long time ago, but now maybe you can. So I'm really quite interested in the Phoenix missile, which you obviously got to know pretty well. What I heard in Bio's book is that they were really reserved for the main job that you had, which was to look after the fleet from the Russian bombers and recon aircraft. So
Okay,
that's what I heard from your book,
Graham,
and
I'm not gonna let you get away with that. This is my badge that I wear, because experts on social media say the Tomcat was designed as an interceptor, which it was not. If you go back to the original specs, and excerpts are out there, the Tomcat had 2 missions. It was Fleet Air Defense and the Navy's Air Superiority Fighter. It was not designed for this, had to do the other one, whatever. It had to do both of those missions. So, okay, sorry, I just want to make that point. I like making that point.
well, that point was from your book. So
Well,
I mean, that's the impression I got from your book. I've obviously read about the F-14 many years ago, but no, what I was trying to say,
I
perhaps
better
not
go
very
back and
well.
look what I wrote when I wrote that
Well,
first book.
well,
Okay,
the impression I got
they
was
were
that
reserved to defend the carrier from a Soviet raid. But I don't want to say that was the primary mission. It was like, that was the end of the world mission. But
no, but
here's the cool thing. Here's the cool thing. That changed in the late 80s when the AA-10 came along. The Navy realized the Sparrow is equivalent or inferior to the AA-10, some versions. And these Tomcat guys need to use their Phoenix in a tactical situation. So we started training to use the Phoenix when we were going against fighters.
so I hadn't got to that part of your book yet.
Oh,
So
it's not in that book. It's not in that book because that book takes place in the early 80s.
yeah, exactly. So what I heard a couple of days ago actually from your book was that you used to basically have, if you went out, you would perhaps have two Phoenix on, but you would also have Sparrows and Sidewinders. And obviously, I heard the stuff from Top Gun where you weren't one on one against bears. You were one on one against F5s or A4s. So clearly, you were using the shorter range missiles, as I understood it. But so I didn't know later. I mean, it makes sense that later you could also use the 100-mile range missile.
Yes.
So my question was going to be, it's I know that the Tomcat was a magic. I mean, how the computer did it at the time when you could track six targets, as I understand it. You could watch 24 and track six. Is that the numbers about right?
No, you could track 24 and attack 6.
Wow, that's quite
But
something,
using
isn't it?
TrackWell Scan built track files and kept tabs on up to 24 targets. Of course, the
Wow.
Rio, I mean, the crew would be swamped trying to keep tabs on 24 and then, breaking out multiple targets in a group and stuff like that. But it had the capability technically.
So the Phoenix missile, I don't know what you can say, whether it's still classified or some of it is, no doubt. But
Here's something that one of the biggest, saddest things of my whole experience is that the U.S. Navy has zero tactical kills with the Phoenix. And because Air Force guys always throw that into our face, oh, you guys carried the Phoenix, and then also I worked with Air Force guys. Once I retired, I worked with some Air Force guys, and they thought the Phoenix was basically a joke. So I pulled up some tactical manual information and showed them, you guys are thinking about the AIM-54A, which still had some capability against the maneuvering fighter, but it was significantly improved with the AIM-54C. The AIM-54C was much better against a maneuvering fighter-sized target. But both of those missiles had some fighter capability. I mean, the AIM-54A was optimized for bombers. That was like the high threat situation because that was the one that could sink the carrier. So it had a few cool things at the end, like it had its own built-in radar, which was very nice. So when we got to use it in a tactical situation, it could, we had launch and leave capability, multi-target track capability. The F-14 brought that in 1974. The Air
it's
Force didn't get
amazing.
it. The Air Force didn't get it until 1991
Yeah.
with the AMRAAM. So, all right, I keep interrupting you if I don't know. In terms of range, in order to get the long range, you had to have a good geometry, good setup, and basically a cooperative target that didn't turn away or anything like that. It could hit a target a long distance, but things had to work out well. But the good thing was, even at a shorter distance, since it had a long burn rocket motor, a lot of speed, and all these other things, it was still very capable at a medium distance. All right.
Well, I could listen to you talk about that for a while. So you're not interrupting me. I'm listening. So I don't know if you want to add anything, Hooter, to that.
I'll add a little bit. VF2 did a follow-on test evaluation, FOT&E, with, I think it was, I want to say it was the A model. It might have been the C model, but it might have been the A model. And one of the better pilots in the squadron, Jack Fields, flew the mission. And it was off the coast of California out at Whiskey 289 or whatever it is out there, wherever the San Nicolas Island is. And he went head to head against whatever the drone was. Did basically the drone started turning. He went vertically, so it's going vertically, and Jack comes over the top. He's nose down, looking against the ocean. He fires an AIM 54, less than 3 miles. It could have been less than 2, but I think it was at least less than 3 miles, and killed the drone. And that was to prove that, yeah, we can kill the small guys too.
Can you imagine being in an enemy aircraft and seeing first off, a Tomcat coming nose on at 3 miles? I mean, 3 miles is a long distance, but if you're used to looking at fighters, an F-14 is going to be a relatively big airplane, and then shooting a 1,000-pound missile at you.
Yeah.
Wow. That would get your attention.
So, did you actually get to live fire them ever? Did
I
they let
shot
you
one.
actually shoot them? Yeah, yeah.
I did not.
I shot one at we were at about 10,000 feet in a 10-degree dive at a drone flying straight and level on the water, basically about 50 feet or 100 feet. And he was jamming. And the purpose was, like Hooter said, that one he described as a test and evaluation shot, and ours was that also. I had to do some things to recognize the jamming, make sure the missile knew what the jamming was, and then we let it go. And so the missile had to deal with jamming. And it was not a warhead missile, but it missed the target by 6 feet, which was a lethal miss. Because the warhead is
Yeah.
a big warhead, blows up.
How big is
And
the
it was,
warhead? How big is it? Was
I
it
can't remember, 100,
big
130,
enough?
130 pounds or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. That's what I recall.
We used to know all that stuff, man. I mean, and they tested us on it. That's one thing that I tell amateurs, not you guys. I mean, non-aviators. That's one thing I tell people who are not very familiar with aviation. I said the T word, the test word. We had tests on procedures, aircraft performance, things like hydraulic pressure. We had to know these things. Some of them were flawless. Emergency procedures, we had to be 100% correct every single word on a written test. And so the Navy, I mean, you had to be serious about being an aviator in order to continue being an aviator. It was fun, but the Navy, took it very seriously, and you had to do that also. But I mean, it was a lot of fun. Okay, anyway.
So
And I can convert pounds to kilos, about 60 kilos.
well, some of us grew up in the
Use
time
both.
when we used both, to be honest. So
Yeah.
we can too. Some of us, I don't know if everybody
Oh, yeah,
can,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah.
2.2046 pounds per kilogram. I learned that when I did counter drug ops.
Yeah, you'd need to know that for the drugs, I suppose.
Yeah.
So anybody got any more questions? Because you've been very quiet, you guys. These are the ones who do ask questions. We get people coming
Graham,
sometimes we
I did,
don't.
Graham, can I
Graham, I
ask
Yeah.
think Neil's got one in the chat. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I missed the one in the chat. Yeah. Yeah. Neil's got another question regarding the F-14, but he hasn't actually told me. I can't see what it is. So
Hello.
you
Can I
He
ask a
wants to
question?
ask himself.
go for it.
Yeah, go for it
Absolutely.
now.
Hi guys, just a quickie for you. Out of all the variants of the Tomcat, the A plus, and the F-14, what was the difference between them, if you don't mind saying?
Oh, well, the A plus, which became the B, had
Aye.
had the new engines.
Okay.
And then the D had the new engines, and significantly improved radar.
Was it good?
Yeah.
And they ended up with a new mission too for the end of its life. I mean, that Lantern pod turned the F-14 into a very capable.
But even the A carried the Lantern pod also and had air to ground mission.
Yes, it could have, but I didn't get to do that.
No,
I knew that it had CCIP, so I knew that we could bomb with the Tomcat. We just didn't at that time.
Yeah, because they refer to it as a bombcat, didn't they? Sometimes.
That, you know what? That was an unofficial nickname. Some people, again, attach that to more kind of formalize that or whatever. And we called ourselves that sometimes. I mean, it was not pejorative. But once the Tomcat picked up the air-to-ground mission, we started calling ourselves Bombcats. A, B, and D.
Fair play.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
So, yeah, Phil's got his hand up now. Hi, Phil.
Did you guys, at any time in your career, whether it is on carriers or elsewhere, did you ever come into the UK or come into the UK to inland bases or not?
I made all 5 of my deployments and all my workup training in the Pacific. So most of the time I left San Diego, went on deployment, and came back to San Diego. So did not do the UK. Went to Australia many times, but Hooter, did you do any Atlantic flying?
I did. The Coral Sea went around the world on my last cruise in Phantoms. So we did some flying in the Atlantic, and we got a stop in Italy and a stop in France. There might have been one other one. I can't really remember, but we did not stop in the UK. Never got to do that.
Yeah,
Oh,
sadly.
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I thought I might put it past you.
Well,
I would have liked it better than the North Pacific because the water around the UK is not too terribly cold, at least on the east side. I'm sorry, on the west side.
Oh, I think you
The
still
North
have to wear
Pacific
poopy
is
suits.
freezing cold.
I think they still have to wear poopy suits in the North Atlantic.
Sure they do.
yeah.
Guys.
Okay, I'm gonna tell a story that we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Go for it.
When Hooter and I when we arrived at VF2, we arrived with almost the same time. You got there a couple of weeks before me, or a month, or something like that. And we were both second tour lieutenants. Were you a lieutenant or lieutenant commander?
Yeah, I was. Wait.
You might have been a lieutenant.
Yes, I was
commander.
lieutenant.
Okay, we were both second tour fighter guys. And so, the squadron assigned us to be a regular pilot in Rio together. So, at the start of the deployment started just a few months after we arrived. And at the start, so we've been in the squadron, just a month or two. We go on deployment. We both have more than 1,000 hours flying fighters and years of flying fighters and stuff like that. So we're feeling really good, we get along and stuff like that. And so we go to fly at the start of the deployment. We're doing an early exercise near Hawaii. So it was a beautiful afternoon. We take off, and we're setting up an air defense grid. So we're assigned this position, and we take off. And normally these exercises, there's no opposition. You don't see any other airplanes coming out. So we go, okay. So we take off. We go out to our station, and we go, wow, this is right over the island of Kauai. Well, that's unusual, but okay. Is this what you remember, Hooter? So we're sitting there. We take our station. I'm looking at the radar. I go, what a surprise. Here comes a target. So there's a guy coming in right towards our station. We run an intercept on him. Hooter looks out and he goes, oh. My recollection is it was a green DC-9. So it was an Air Hawaii DC-9. So we did not get close to the guy. We went back to our station. turn around, look back out. Oh, here comes another target. So I'm thinking it was going to be a TA-4 from the reserve squadron, or even an A3 Sky Warrior or something, an adversary. Here comes another target. Get close to it. It's another DC-9. Damn it, what is this? So then Hooter goes, oh, just a minute, Bio. I forgot to sync the compass.
Oh,
So he synced the compass, and this affected our inertial nav system. And all of a sudden, all the indicators rotate like 20 degrees, and our station is like 60 miles north of where we are. So we just silently fly up to our station, wait out there and look. Don't see another airplane. We go back. And to my disappointment, nobody asked us, what were you guys doing over that island? I mean, I'm glad the FAA didn't ask us, but the E2 didn't ask us. The cruiser didn't ask us. The ship, nobody asked us. So it's like, all right, what are you guys doing? So we go back and land, we just kept it between ourselves. The next night, we go out for another beautiful evening. We're manning up. We man up. We're going to go fly on another routine flight. And we're sitting there on the flight deck. And all of a sudden, Hooter goes, Bio, look at that guy on the right. He's telling us we're down. So there's a ship yellow shirt comes out, and he waves to us and goes, you're down. He goes, why are we down? I go, I don't know. So I go, let me call the air boss up in the tower. So when I called the air boss on the radio and asked him, I go, oh, shit, I need to turn my radio on, which is part of the startup checklist. I mean, that's like step 0 of getting in the cockpit. So I go, Hooter, wait a minute, I didn't turn my radio on. So I turn the radio on. I say, boss, 204, why are we down? He goes, oh, 204. He goes, I've been trying to call you for 5 minutes and you never replied, so I thought your radio was broken. So I go, okay, well, we're here. And so the reason he'd been trying to call us was just there was an administrative change to our mission. Instead of working button 12 radio frequency, you're working number 13. So I go, okay, got it, boss. Administrative change. And it almost, screwed us up. So now, we taxi on the catapult, we take off. As we're flying out ahead of the ship, Hooter says 3 words that benefited the rest of my Navy career. As we're flying out ahead of the ship, Hooter goes, Bio, we're complacent. Is that the way you remember it?
Yes, yeah. I do.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Well,
I had just snapped my mask off and sat back in my seat and said,
at least you didn't light up a cigarette. Well, complacency was a code word in the Navy for being complacent. And the Safety Center had stumbled onto this just like a year before. They said aviators got safer and safer as they gained experience until they got to this certain level. And I think their level was like 750 hours or something like that. And once you got to that level of experience, you felt too comfortable. And so the accident rate went up until you got a little bit more, and then the accident rate went back down. So anyway, by him saying, Bio, we're complacent, that was like a slap in the face to, hey, we need to stay in the game. And, and it helped me. I mean, I thought of that probably every single flight for the rest of my career. So thanks, Hooter.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wake-up call. Unfortunately, we got the wake-up call without having to eject and die.
Right. We were fortunate that we didn't break anything or violate anything or whatever or get caught. So.
Yeah, I get that. I don't fly, but I drive, and I think it's easy even driving because it's just automatic, isn't it? It's nothing like you guys are talking about, but it's the same.
Similar.
You can, and I've got a new car with all the flashing lights that tell me there's something coming by. And about a month ago, I switched lanes and didn't see a car coming up. And I, I, I gave myself a proper talking to be honest, because I thought that would have been my fault if I'd have hit him.
Same
And
exact thing.
and
Yep.
it's a tiny bit of what you're talking about that you get to the point where because the car's got all the kit, it's got automatic driving everything and beeping if I do something stupid, even if I'm sure I don't know about in the aircraft, but you get beeps where you really don't know why is it beeping
Now
sometimes.
newer airplanes have Bitch and Betty to do all
Yeah.
that stuff
Yeah,
for
yeah,
'em.
right. But yeah, I get it. I think it's fascinating. I mean, I got a question for Bio. I know you said you couldn't fly a pilot. You couldn't be a pilot because of your eyesight. Did you ever get to fly? Because I know the F-14 doesn't have a stick, so you couldn't fly it
I,
because there
I
was no
flew
kit.
F5Fs. I flew F5Fs when I was in Top Gun.
So they had a stick in the back, did they? So you could actually fly. So yeah, that's great. I'm so pleased really because I was thinking, wow, all that stuff you've done.
No, I have to admit, that was really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did not get good. Hooter, when you're in flight training and you can fly formation, what's that like 60 hours or something, whatever,
Yeah,
or four,
close.
mid, anyway, I got to where I could fly pretty good formation. And to me, I can't even remember which pilot it was. One of my fellow Top Gun instructor pilots was talking about how when the Rios used to fly, the pilot would turn off pitch stability, pitch SAS. I never even suspected that. I mean, the F5 was such a simple airplane, and I knew that it had these stability systems, but I never even suspected it. So when this guy said it, I flipped him off right on the on the video, but because I never suspected it. But we would join up. We look at this. I got my mouse. We'd join up on another F5. This is me. Pilot would go, "Okay, Bio, you got it," and then I'd start wobbling up and down and moving in and out. And so anyway, later they quit messing with me, and I kind of figured a few things out. I mean, you just and so that was fun, but it was also just fun to just fly around. You're in a jet fighter. So Hooter, Tom Otterbein, right? Otter.
Yeah, yeah.
I flew a PMCF with him one time in a two-seat F5F. He goes, Bio, he goes, you got it. Just so I'm out there flying her over the Pacific Ocean, doing a post-maintenance check flight, PMCF. I'm just flying the plane the whole time. It was just so much fun. So yeah, I got to fly.
So
Yeah, I'm looking through my logbook on formation flying. It takes up 2 pages. So I got quite, they put you through many hours of training to get decent.
Yeah.
Clive's got a question. Clive, over to you.
Oh, sorry, I'm doing something else. So I forgot what I was doing. Just a quick question. Well, I've got one for Bio first off. When you, at the start of this talk, you said you want to be a pilot, but then your eyesight kind of failed you. Did you ever think about being a bombardier navigator on the A6 or working back in radar for the E2 or anything like that?
I wanted to be an F-14. I wanted to be a Rio and an F-14 Rio.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate. Now, some of the people that I was with in Pensacola, both pilots, because we trained with pilots for a little while, for a few weeks. Was that 6 weeks, maybe? Yeah, I think so. But you talk to all your classmates and stuff, and some people down there, they didn't care what they flew. They just wanted to do something in naval aviation. But me, I wanted to be an F-14 Rio. So I did not want to be an A6BN. I got a lot of respect for those guys, but I didn't want to be one.
Yeah. And another quick question to both of you. You've mentioned the role of the F-14 earlier. You said it was and intercept and all the rest of it. And later in his career, he started carrying bombs because he was always wired to carry bombs. Did either of you ever use it in the attack role or drop bombs off it or fire anything else apart from air-to-air missiles off it?
Hooter got out before we carried bombs.
Yeah.
Oh, you left before? Sorry, you left before they started carrying bombs.
But I carried bombs in Phantoms.
Cool.
There you go.
Yeah,
and everywhere I went, peace broke out. So I never got to really drop them. I never got to really drop them on anything that meant anything. Although I did blow up looked like a new school bus that was forming the ring around a target in Fallon. I blew one up with a 2,000-pound bomb. That was officially off target, but I got a bullseye for it.
Well done.
So
it makes a 2,000-pound bomb will make an entire school bus disappear. That's
I imagine.
A 2,000-pound bomb. Actually, I think even a 1,000-pounder, you can see the fireball even on a bright day from 8,000, 10,000 feet. You can see the fireball.
Yeah.
But my final flying experience, 1996 to 98, the F-14 was well established as a bomber, and so we carried and dropped bombs, practice bombs, live bombs. But like Hooter, I never dropped any, even though we deployed over Iraq for Operation Southern Watch. While I was there, nobody tried anything. So we didn't shoot at them, they didn't shoot at us.
They knew who they were dealing with.
Yeah. I'm ready to push that button.
Did you get painted by enemy radar?
Nope. I don't know if that would have been a hostile act at that time or not. I don't remember. But no,
I'm pretty sure
not.
there were no enemy radar still working when you were there.
That's what I was thinking, but well, you've got to ask.
They were. No, in 96, 98. Yeah, because I remember we took TARP's mission and took pictures of SAM sites.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it.
Yeah.
So did you do seed missions as well? Did the F-14 carry any anti-radiation?
Nope. There's a photo where they tested it with harm, but they just checked to see if it would fit.
Yeah.
But no, it was never. The only thing similar to that was we did certain crews were qualified as excuse me, I got hiccups. Forward Air Controller, FAC-A, Forward Air Controller Airborne. And Hooter, did you ever hear a FAC working on the radio?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of podcasts where guys were talking about that. Actually, grease penciling all the stuff on the canopy, and
it is nuts. Amazing.
Yeah,
I was not qualified as one, which is good. I mean, maybe there was a time when I could have done it, but yeah, these guys, they were so busy and so dialed in, plugged in, on top of everything, and they just write on the canopy with a grease pencil.
Yep.
They write all this information down, and then because I manned up an airplane one time that they didn't wipe it off, which I think they left it on in purpose, and it was just amazing, all the writing on there. I mean, it's easy enough to wipe off. So they did Tomcats did the FAC-A mission in addition to TARP's reconnaissance, counter air. Later we did strike, and then air defense, fleet air defense.
So you promised us 90 minutes, guys, and it's just coming up to 90 minutes. I could frankly listen to you for a lot longer, but I don't want to push our luck. So I don't know if anybody's got any. Is that okay? Are we okay to wind down now, guys? Is that about right for you, or?
It works for me. I mean, I've got some stuff I need to do medically. I need to go to a doctor, but nothing bad.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, I was going to say, man, you look like you need to get to a doctor. All right, sorry, Hooter.
I think you know each other quite well, yeah.
Man,
and that is one thing I'd like to bring up. We didn't really talk about the crew resource management. What it is to be a crew like Bio and I were, and you don't always have the same person, but you do get into a locked in on what the other person is thinking about, what they're going to say and do next. You would calibrate your eyes with, uh, you know, uh, your clock codes. I'm calling that cloud over there at 1 o'clock. No, it's 2 o'clock. Okay, I'll give you 2 o'clock. I'm calling that thing 30 degrees below, 30 degrees above. You would calibrate things between you so that you knew what you were doing with each other. And it got to be, pretty comfortable in that you could do a whole lot of things without a whole lot of discussion with each other. Because, at the pass, Bio's watching the guy that's going behind me. He knows I'm looking out this way. He's telling me where the guy's turning back across my six or going up or going down. I'm looking for the other guy out front. And Bio realizes I know that. I'll talk his eyes to it when I switch to another one. So you get into that groove and it's cool. It's just cool when it works.
Yeah.
Well said. I agree.
Life or death, actually. Really.
We never thought of it that way.
No, but
Yeah.
it does in the real situation. That's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you all always fly with the same pilot and Rio together, or did you just who was
I
available?
would say about 80% of the time, basically.
Yeah. And then as you got senior, you'd bounce around.
Yeah.
And getting senior is much better than the alternate.
One more question I've got for if that's okay. I was fascinated by your this is for Bio because I know more about him because I've listened to his book. So sorry, Hooter, but I got questions because I wrote them down before. You were talking about maybe applying to come and fly in the Royal Air Force in Tornado, which I thought was. Then I think you went to Top Gun. So
Yeah.
you didn't go because you thought you could go to Top Gun, and that was a big deal. So what is there any more of that story? Because there's a little snippet in the book.
Well, I knew I was aware of the tornado, and I thought, oh, it'd be cool going to live in another country and flying a totally different airplane because I thought it would be something out of the ordinary. Because very few Americans do that. But later on, I did meet several guys. Actually, a guy in my first squadron had flown Phantoms in the Royal, I think it was the Royal Navy. And so that's probably what gave me the idea. He was a Rio. He was a Rio who'd flown Phantoms. And so that may have been what gave me the idea. And then in years later, I talked to guys who flew in the Tornado, and I didn't talk to them too much about the airplane. They liked it. They loved being part of, living in the UK and all that. So, but when the whole Top Gun thing became an option, I said, yeah, I'm going to do this instead.
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we hear on the radio. I mean, sometimes I don't listen to it much, not like some of these guys, but we hear on the military airband, we got quite a lot of activity over here, and I don't just mean now. We know I don't mean that. I mean generally, and we'll occasionally hear in a U.S. Air Force aircraft, we'll hear a British voice, and vice versa. You get it. And in fact, Todd, who I was mentioning, I think I mentioned Hooter. Todd's not here tonight, but he attends some of these, and he is a former C-130 U.S. Air Force C-130 pilot who came over for an exchange, and guess what? He married he married one of the Royal Air Force officers that he met while he was here. So he tells me. So he lives here. He lives in
Nice.
UK. So this can happen. Anyway, so any more questions quickly before the guys go, because we've had their time now. Any more?
So I was just going to ask, well, hopefully a quick one to Hooter. You mentioned you flew the F4 before the F14. How was it switching from the F4 to the F14? Was there a major difference, or was it fairly easy?
The fundamentals basically the same. it flies like an airplane. The Phantoms I flew 3 different versions: the J, the S, and the N, in that order. So at one point, I was qualified in those 3 different airplanes at the same time. And the biggest difference I noted was the Phantom just had raw power, and the F-14A just did not. It felt different with regard to just the power system, just the engine systems. We had the J-79 meat grinders that they could do anything. And on the F-14A, we had the, I can't even remember what, TF-30s, I think, with the afterburner strapped on the back. And, there were issues with it. It's well documented about stalls and stuff, that kind of stuff. You just needed to know that. You needed to know how to deal with that. So that's the only real difference in terms of flying the airplane. Flying the weapon system, F-14, 100% better, even the F-14A, and it just got sweeter as it got older than what we had in the Phantom. I mean, we had all analog stuff in the Phantoms. When we dropped bombs, we were cranking in mills on a iron bomb site, and you had sidewinders and you had sparrows, and we didn't famously have a gun. And I will tell you, strafing is fun. Strafing is fun. So that's a big difference. In terms of coming aboard the boat, I don't know how the later F-14s were. The spool up time on the F-14A was a little bit scary. The Phantom was, if you were sweet with the throttles on the Phantom, it was rock solid. Of course, it was a heavy airplane, and given its wing shape and all that kind of stuff, so you didn't want to get a behind on it at all. Same as the F-14, you just don't, any airplane, you don't want to get a behind on the power. So not too much difference in terms of raw flying. If I had to choose, I famously once said I'd choose the F-4 over the F-14, but that is the F-4.
Oh, I've heard that.
F-14A, the F-14.
I've heard that from a lot of guys.
The F-14D, different airplane altogether.
There you go.
Thank you. Well, I don't know if you two guys have got any more to add before we close.
No, let's go ahead and wrap it up, Graham. This has been a lot of fun. You guys are a
call
good
us
group.
back for a second
Question. What's that?
Call us back for a second one.
Yeah. If you really want to, I think, to be honest, I think there's going to be a lot of people wish they'd heard this, because we've got there's a lot of people not here. The problem was that Matt's finished and I hadn't got his list, and so he was more connected with people. So sorry about that. I would have expected 20 and we got 13. So such is life. But I'll do my best to get the recording out. What I'll do, I don't know how I'll do it yet, because I've got a YouTube channel, but it wouldn't really be appropriate on that. It's a different thing altogether. So I'll at least I can let you have the recordings, guys. The two U.S. Navy guys, and I'll talk to Matt or whoever about what to do with it, whether to put it up where. If you need it somewhere, I'll sort it out. It's recording on my PC, I believe, so I'll have the file, so I'll be able to let you have it. So
cool.
With that,
Dave, I'd just like to say before we finish, I'm just currently on eBay looking at your 2 books at the moment, so I'm just about to order your two books.
You won't have any room. Stop buying books.
Yeah, no, Hooter's got a book that's just out. No, I don't know. He hasn't read it yet.
That's by Filthy.
I want to plug Filthy's book. Bio says it's good right here.
Excellent.
Is it an audio book as well? Because I like audio books.
Filthy is trying to figure out. He's trying to figure out whether to make an audio book.
Okay, I will. Well, if I may, I'll email you anyway. I'll email you with the recording, and then maybe I can ask it. But maybe there is a chance to have another go.
I don't think you can send that file on email, but we can use.
No, I'll email you with a link. I can give you a link. You can download it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, thanks very
All
much,
right.
guys. Been absolutely
guys.
fantastic,
Yeah.
as I expected it
Yes,
to be.
indeed. Yes. Hey, many thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
See you
you.
guys.
you.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
guys.
evening.
Thank you, guys.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thank
I don't
you.
know
Thank
if
you.
anybody wants to stay. The Zoom's still open, so you're welcome
Dan,
to have a.
Clive.
I've been told, apparently.
You've been told, have you?
Bill just told me I'm
Yeah,
staying.
but
So.
you didn't tell Clive. I had to jump in about the books there, Dan.
Well, I thought you'd do it, so I don't need to.
I
Well,
tell you
just
what,
to God forbid us when we get over into northern Italy. I don't know if he understands Italian, whether they only do aviation books in Italian over there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I must say I'm impressed with the guys. I mean, I knew I would be, but well, yeah, it was pretty good, wasn't it? And
It was.
Yeah,
I was a little bit late coming in because
well, yeah, but it happens,
I
I'm gonna switch
forgot
off the
what day
recording.
it
I've just
was.
realised.